Good morning, good afternoon, good day, good evening. My name is Albert Tan, as usual. This is the evening time for me. And we have a guest today called Matt Mazur. And today our webinar or Facebook Live will talk about this president, not US president, but then it's just pronounced as president. So this is an app to let you produce professional visual timelines and roadmaps within a few minutes. So this is an established app in the market, and I was told that President has been in the market for last 12 years. So before we actually start this, what I call Facebook Live proper, let me do some housekeeping. As usual, for those who have attended our Facebook Live or webinar, kindly give permission to this wave video to show your profile photo and your name while commenting by clicking the link as shown in the what I call video. So with that, we should be able to see you in our backend. So we don't have to go into the Facebook group to check your name. So it will help us, to interact better with you guys, exactly who you are talking about. Okay, so let's see who is actually online. Oh, there are a few guys, Sharif, Rohani, Cleven Chu, Pong Nam Nguyen, Chenake Swarao. Okay, welcome everybody. And some guys from Sydney, I don't know who you are, so please give permission to wave video first, so that we can actually know who you are. And guys, so that's good. And we should actually start our so-called interview or product demo by this Matt. Matt, let me ask you some questions before we actually go into the detail of your app. So where are you from, Matt?
Everyone, thanks for being here. And Albert, thanks so much for hosting this. I am from North Carolina in the United States.
I see. That's very far from here. Okay. Of course, the audience actually would like to know more about your professional life and then why do you want to start up, this president, and just tell us what is happening,
Yeah. So in a former life, I was a project manager in the US Air Force. And in that role, I had to manage a lot of complex multi-month projects. And as a project manager, you would have to keep track of all the details for these projects, and you would have to convey all that information to your team and also to different stakeholders in the organization. And a common way to do this is to create a timeline that you can share with your team. And there's different ways to do this. You can, for example, jump in PowerPoint and just manipulate a bunch of shapes and create a timeline that way, or you could use a complex tool like Microsoft Project to do it. But it was all these different tools have their own downsides, and I noticed myself and a lot of my coworkers struggling with creating these timelines to present our project updates. And so I decided to build Preceden to make that process easier. I eventually left the Air Force and now I focus full time on Preceden.
Mm-hmm. So that is your background. So because basically I would know that, a lot of project management is actually happen in various kind of what I call organization, big or small, whether it's business or maybe scientific background, or maybe like NASA or Air Force or military, a lot of project management. So this will be very helpful to the people who are using it. So, but we also find that, timelines, roadmaps are actually very useful in day-to-day business management. For most of the people are actually here are agency owners, or they own their small business, or some of them actually from big companies. So I find that it might actually help them, and would like to see more about this, from how you are going to help them to use this app, and I would say that there is now no competitor in AppSumo for this app, so you are good to go. Okay, yeah. So why don't you go into your backend and tell us more about your app?
Sure. One moment.
Okay, we can see your backend.
Great. Can you see the timeline on the screen now?
Yes.
Great. So to your point, Preceden is a general purpose timeline maker. There are timeline makers that focus on, for example, just students creating timelines for history projects. And there's other project management tools that just focus on professionals. Preceden is a general purpose tool, so you can create timelines for anything. It's heavily used by project managers, but it also is used by a lot of students and lawyers. And I'll show you some examples of these type of timelines in a minute. And maybe for your audience, that'll spark some ideas for how they might be able to use Preceden in their lives or in their organization. So when I say timeline, different people are going to have different images in their head for what a timeline looks like. So just to get everybody on the same page, this is Preceden, and this is an example of a timeline that you can create with Preceden. Preceden does support many different layouts and styles of timelines, but this what you're looking at on the screen is a common example of the type of timeline that people create with Preceden. What we're looking at right now is a project timeline. So you can imagine that you are going to launch your startup, you're going to launch a product, or have some other big launch that you're planning for. So Preceden lets you create timelines like this to visualize all those moving pieces. Now, kind of two key terms to understand are events. Those are the individual items on the timeline. So this timeline has 13 of them. And layers. Layers are these horizontal groups that let us keep related events together on the timeline to make the timeline cleaner and to help keep it more organized. So this timeline has 3 layers, one for product, one for quality assurance, and one for marketing. Now, it doesn't have to be organized this way. For example, you could have one layer that's just tasked for a specific person, and then the layers could be named after that person. But again, there's lots of different ways to organize this. Preceden lets you name things whatever you'd like. So I've seen lots of different ways for organizing these timelines. Before we dive into how to actually use Preceden, let me show you all a few other examples of timelines that you can create with Preceden to give you a sense of the different styles and different use cases. So again, this is the timeline with 3 layers. You can see that the axis across the top of the timeline. Here's a different style of timeline. This timeline has 2 layers, and here the axis is this thick band across the middle of the timeline. Some people, when they think of timelines, they think of timelines that are more this style of timeline. Here's another example. Preceden is used heavily by lawyers and people using it to visualize histories for different legal matters. So this is an example of a timeline where maybe it's going through some litigation about when a loan was given and how much money it was and when these things happen. So this is a simple timeline to let you visualize something like that. This is a graduate education timeline. You can see this timeline also has an image associated with it. Preceden lets you upload images on any event. This timeline also has 2 axes, one at the top of each layer. This is climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. So if you have maybe a trip planned in your life or something big coming up in your life, you can use Preceden to visualize all the moving pieces for that. A lot of authors also use Preceden. For authors who write fiction, Preceden is a great way to organize the worlds that they're creating and keep track of all the characters and their lives and other details about these fantasy worlds that they create. And a lot of nonfiction authors also use Preceden to organize their research. And Preceden is also popular among educators and students for creating just timelines of world history. These type of timelines make it very easy to look at a specific date in time. For example, we could look at 1942 here and see like who was president in the US and where was Hitler during his power, and where was that during World War II, and when was the attack on Pearl Harbor and whatnot. So Preceden makes it very easy to visualize these complex timelines to make it easier for you and your audience to gain insights into the data. So let me head back to the original timeline. So let's talk through a few different things. This timeline already has some events on it. If we want to add an event, there's 2 ways we can do that. We can either go up here and click Add Event, or if we know a specific layer we want to add the event to, we can just hover over that layer and click the plus sign, and then this dialog will default to that layer that we just clicked. So let's go ahead and add an event. The only 2 things you absolutely need are a name and a start date. So let's call this like Google Ads campaign. And let's give it a start date. We can either type in a start date here, or we can use the date picker here to choose a start date. And we can either leave the end date blank, or we can enter a specific date. We could also enter a duration, which I'll show you in a minute, or we can say present, in which case Preceden will always end the event at this current moment in time. So let's give it a duration like 12 weeks. And by putting a duration here, it kind of saves you a little bit of work. Like you might have in your head that this event's going to take 12 weeks, but if you weren't able to type 12 weeks in here, you would have to go use the date picker and figure out exactly when the end date is. So Preceden tries to make it easier for you and let you just type in a duration like that. Let's go ahead and add this. Let me reload the page here. Let's try that one more time. All right, so here we can see the Google Ads campaign. It was added to the timeline right here. Let's go ahead, since I already have this Google Ads one on here, let's just go ahead and give it a different name, like Bing Ads campaign. Bing Ads campaign. So by just clicking it, by adding the event like that, it's automatically added to our timeline in a place that makes the most sense. In this case, it's by when the event starts. And if we wanted to, we could also change the event dates. For example, let's say there's a change of plans and we want to make this last 16 weeks instead of 12 weeks. We can just go in there and update it. Also, if we wanted to, we could just change the dates directly on the timeline here by clicking on either side and moving it around. We could also shift the entire event around, and we could also reposition it vertically on the timeline as well if we didn't want it to be where it was added by default. So that's those are events. There's a lot more that we can do with events though. For example, notice that some of these bars are shaded, and that's because I've specified a percent complete on them. But this one doesn't have that set. So let's go in here and say percent complete is equal to, let's say 60%. We'll update the event, and now we can see that it's shaded accordingly on the timeline, and it also reflects here that it's 60% complete. Preceden also lets you visually connect events on the timeline. You can see an example here, but let's go ahead and do that here as well. So maybe we want this Bing Ads campaign to be visually connected to this Google Ads campaign. We can go in here, click more options, search for Google Ads, update event, and now Preceden is going to draw this line between the two events to further highlight for your audience that those two events are visually are connected in some way. We could also do things like make this Bing Ads campaign start as soon as the Google Ads one ends. Unlike many other tools, we can also say that these dates are approximate. So we can go in here and say that we want let's say both the start and end date are approximate. And what that's going to do is on the timeline, it's going to kind of make the event fade in and fade out to visually indicate to you and your audience that these dates are approximate. You'll notice too that some of these events aren't these bars like this, but instead have an icon associated with them. We get that icon if we don't have an end date for the event. And that indicates that this event took place at a moment or a day in time. It doesn't have a fixed duration. So we can go here now and say we want this Bing Ads campaign. Let's call it kickoff since we want this to represent a moment in time. We give it this rocket icon. And now we can see here that instead of that horizontal bar, it's just going to be this icon displayed on the timeline. So what I showed you so far is adding events individually. Again, we can click add event here or click the plus sign on any of these layers. But Preceden also has a bulk editor, and this is a spreadsheet-like interface that lets you add and edit events more quickly than adding them one at a time using that other UI. It doesn't have all the same functionality as if you add it one at a time, but all the key features, name, start date, end date, and color, icon, and notes are available here. And you can also add layers and add events. So if you already have a lot of events in mind and you just want a quick way to add them to your timeline, this bulk editor is a great way to do that. Preceden also has a way to import from a CSV. So if you have this data in a CSV, either one that you generated or from some third-party tool, it's easy to import directly into your timeline as well. So This timeline is behind a secret URL, which means that, notice this URL here has some cryptic info added to it. And so we could share this timeline, and anybody who has this URL will be able to load it. But if they don't have this specific code, they won't be able to see the timeline. So it's a way to add some privacy to a timeline that you want to share easily, but that you don't want to be accessible by anybody on the net. We could also go and say it's private, in which case only yourself would be able to see it. We can make it public, in which case everybody would be able to see it. We also have password protected, which would let you specify a password, and then you could give the URL and this password to anybody that you want to be able to see the timeline. So visibility really just depends on who you're comfortable being able to see this timeline. Preceden also supports collaboration, so we could invite individual people to contribute to this timeline. And by inviting them, they will be able to see and edit this timeline, but they won't be able to automatically see or contribute to any other of your timelines. You'd have to invite them individually to each one if you want them to be able to contribute to it. So if you are an agency owner, for example, and you have a timeline that's for a specific client, you can invite people from that organization to that timeline, and they'll be able to see it, they'll be able to contribute to it, but they won't be able to see any of the other timelines on your account. Preceden also does have team functionality. So if you are, for example, part of an agency and you're going to have multiple people who are creating timelines, and you want them to be able to automatically see and contribute to your timelines and vice versa, Preceden has this team functionality that supports that. Let me show you these appearance settings, because this is one of the key areas where Preceden shines relative to other tools that have timeline visualizations in them. For most of these other project management and Gantt chart tools, the visualization is really an afterthought. They generate it for you, but they haven't spent a lot of time making sure it looks professional. It's very limited in terms of its customization options, in terms of date formats and colors and layouts and whatnot. But because Preceden is entirely focused on creating these timeline visualizations, we're able to go very deep on these settings so that you can create a timeline that suits you and suits your project well. So let's go into colors, for example. We can see here that this timeline background has this kind of light gray background here, but if we prefer, we can have it be white, or we can have it be dark blue, or this black color. Right now, we're taking the layer colors and we're automatically applying them to the events. That's why this layer is blue and these events are blue. But if we wanted to, we could uncheck that option, and then we could go back and we could customize the colors for all these individual events. And that's why on some of these timelines, you'll notice that not all the events in the layer are not the same color. It's because this timeline does not have that setting checked. But again, depending on your taste and your timeline, that might be a setting that you consider. We could also say we want this layer color to apply to the layer itself, in which case it's going to add a lighter shade of that color to the timeline. Again, it's lots of options for customizing the look and feel of your timeline depending on your tastes. Let's undo that. I'll show you a few more things. Date formats. So right now you can see the dates displayed on the events here in this like 11 July format. But if we preferred something else, it's easy to pick one of the other options here. We could change the date picker format, the language, whether we want these approximate dates on here to say approx or a tilde, which is common in some fields. We could say whether we want the week to start on Monday or Sunday, change the quarter format, and more. For events, we can say, like, maybe we don't want the dates to display on the timeline. We can get rid of that, and then it'll just show these percent completes. We could show notes on the timeline. We could show the durations on the timeline. So notice when I check that now for all these events, it's saying exactly how long it was. And this is all to make it easier for you and anybody viewing this timeline to understand what your timeline is trying to convey easier. Yeah, there's no right or wrong answer for what you should include or what you should not include. It's really just up to your taste. Lots of different options for, like, if you have an event and the name doesn't fit in the bar, do you want it to display the name outside of the bar or cut it off inside the bar? For these durations, do you want it to be like 2 months and 18 days, or maybe you just want it to say days instead? So I'll show you a few other things here. We can automatically compress the layers, which will make it so that it displays as many events in a single row as possible. So if you have a very long timeline with a lot of events on it, this is a way to compress it. Right now, all these layer names are displayed on the left, but we can also make it displayed on the top, and just depending on what you're after. There's ways to change the font. We can add a legend here to specify what individual colors mean. We could add a logo. I'm not going to show you all of those things right now, but just to give you a sense of what's available. If we wanted to, also, by default, Preceden is going to show us all the events on this timeline, and that's what most people want. But some people do want to focus on a specific period of time. So you can click and drag across a period of time, and Preceden is going to zoom into that. And then you could either keep it there, or you could scroll left and right, or use the arrow keys on your keyboard. And this lets you just get to a more granular view. And you could continue going too if you wanted to. You could also search and filter. For a timeline like this with only 13 events, it's not too bad. But we do have customers with timelines with hundreds of events, some with even more than 1,000 events. So sometimes it can be useful to be able to just search their timeline and filter down to just the events that they're looking for. At any point, again, you could share your timeline with others. You can just copy the link, assuming it's not private, and anybody else will be able to see this timeline depending on your visibility settings. You can also export and share your timeline in a variety of other ways. You could download it as a PDF, you can download it as an image, you can download it as an image that's optimized to be embedded in PowerPoint or Keynote. You can bring up a presentation mode, and what that will do is just hide the rest of Preceden's interface. So if you're in a meeting with your team and you don't want to see all this other stuff in the interface, you could just bring it up in presentation mode to just focus on that and talk through the project timeline with your team. You can obviously share it as a link. You can embed it in a website using iframe. You can download it as a spreadsheet if you'd like, and you can also, like I mentioned before, import a spreadsheet back into Preceden to edit the content here. I do want to show you too. So, a few things. Everybody, you're going to have a dashboard. If you just have one timeline, obviously there's just going to be one timeline on here. But if you have multiple timelines, you'll be able to see them all in here. Something that I have planned shortly too is to add support for folders on here. So if you do have dozens of timelines, you'll be able to organize them into folders so that they're not all just displayed on the dashboard like this. And when you go to create a timeline, this is what that process looks like. Preceden doesn't have templates. I have tried templates in the past with Preceden, but they wind up not being a great experience for users. And by template, I mean, imagine creating a timeline and it starts out with a bunch of events on it. And then you would have to go in and modify those events based on the content that you want to add to the timeline. But it's not a great experience for users because it takes a lot of editing to get that template to look right based on the events that they want to add to it. So we don't have templates, but we do have these themes. And the themes you can think of as a way to kickstart your timeline based on what kind of layout you want and what kind of colors you want. So we can start with a simple timeline like this, or like that first timeline we were looking at, we can start with a more like project-oriented, multi-layered timeline like this, or kind of the more classic style where you have a band down the middle. And for all of these, I give you a few different options for starting with a different color palette, and you can also choose whether you want it to be public or private. And then once you're in there, demo. Preceden's going to give you that blank timeline, and then you can go ahead and start adding events to it. For many people who are using Preceden, who already have these dates floating around in their head, this only takes a few minutes to populate with those initial events. So we've tried to make it very easy to get you in here, make it easier for you to add these events to your timeline, and create a timeline that you can be proud of and share with your audience. So that's the core product. Hopefully it gives you a sense of what Preceden is capable of and maybe spark some ideas for how you might be able to use it in your life and in your professional life. But yeah, I'd be happy to take any questions about either Preceden or the deal that's ongoing.
Okay, thank you, Matt. And I think you have done a good job, explaining the detail. And I would also like to, hold on, let me show the face. That will be clearer. Okay, yeah, before we go into the question by this audience, maybe we should ask you a few more questions about you and your company.
Sure.
So, may I know that, how many team members do you have in your, what I call this app,
Yeah, we're a team of 4, so it's myself, and again, I'm a developer and data guy, but I have to work across all aspects of the app. Also have a front end engineer and designer who's from Bosnia and Herzegovina. We have a support person who lives on an island called Madeira off the coast of Portugal, and we have a marketer who lives in Portland, Oregon.
Okay, so this is actually a distributed team, so it's very common nowadays.
Yeah.
For people to, for startup, to engage people from various part of the world to make a better project or make a better app. So
Totally.
this is the, okay, that's good. And you told me that it was actually 12 years ago you started this Preceden. So can I say that you are an expert in timelines?
Yeah, I launched it in 2010, and I've been working on it ever since. Yeah, there's probably not many people in the world who have thought more about timelines than I have.
Okay, so yeah, there are a few questions that I have for myself. First is actually on the integration, and a lot of people have various kind of a project manager as their app, to use in the market. There are maybe hundreds of them. So how are you going to actually integrate with them? Because yours is only specialized in timeline and also roadmap. Is there any way that you can actually integrate with them well?
Not automatically at the moment. For most project managers using Preceden is an additional tool in their tool stack. Preceden is intentionally not trying to be a full-fledged project management tool like Basecamp or maybe Microsoft Project like that. Those tend to be very heavy tools, very complex tools with a steep learning curve. I've instead focused Preceden entirely on that visualization aspect, and that's the thing that it tries to be the best in the world at. As far as integrations go, there's no direct integrations with other project management tools to pull in your data. I have had requests for this, as you can imagine, and it's on our roadmap to add more integrations in the future. This would be both for other project management tools like Smartsheet, for example, but also just even like Google Sheets, being able to have your data in Google Sheets and have it automatically visualized in Preceden. As I did mention, though, there is this CSV import feature. So if you have data in another tool and you want to visualize it in Preceden, there is a way to do that, but it's not automatic at the moment.
Okay, thank you for your question. Because I myself also have used timeline before, and we often find that the timelines in those project management tools are boring, no
Yeah.
color and that kind of thing. So it's just lines and lines, and that's it. I still remember very well in the early days. We only use a Excel sheet, to do our timeline.
Yep.
And Gantt chart, that kind of thing. So it's boring, to be frank.
Yeah,
So,
we actually we have tutorials on the site around like how to create timelines in Excel, and as I'm sure you remember, it's a very involved process. In the end, you kind of wind up with this very crummy looking timeline. So for a lot of people who have done that type of thing, you're going to find Preceden a breeze.
yeah, because I still remember my bosses say, "Hey, can you make it more beautiful, more colors, and make it more visible and presentable to the big boss?" I tell them, why don't you come and help me to do? It's so difficult, in those days, So, okay, let's talk about other things. We have some question already. Why not we scroll up? I will project the question so then can start answering that. Okay, this question is by Vivian Lau.
So is it a Gantt chart? Not a Gantt chart. There are no doubt overlaps between the timelines that you can create with Preceden and Gantt charts. Traditionally, with Gantt charts, you'll see like all the event names down the left-hand side, and you'll see these bars on the timeline that represent the durations. But Gantt charts are very limited in terms of their visualization capabilities. Just for one simple example, most Gantt charts are going to require that the event have a duration to it. So you can't say that this event just takes place at a moment in time and have, for example, an icon associated with it. With Preceden, all the events have optional end dates, so you're not constrained to having these events with durations to it. You can't have approximate start dates usually. You can't adjust the layout. You can't adjust the colors. So like a lot of these project management tools have these visualization capabilities, Gantt chart tools included, but they do not focus on the visualization. Whereas with Preceden, again, we go very deep on the visualization and giving you options to customize it based on its layout and the colors and options based on your taste and how it suits your project.
Okay, thank you for your answer. And David was asking, of course, there is collaborators and users. So can you please explain one more time what's the difference between users and collaborators? It was helpful.
Yeah, collaborators, you are people that you invite to contribute to specific timelines. And when you invite them, they're only going to be able to see and contribute to the timelines that you invite them to. Oftentimes, you'll have 10 or 20 timelines in your account, and you don't want those people to be able to see and contribute to all of your timelines, just specific ones. So you can use the collaboration feature to invite people, again, to just specific timelines. With the team plans, the multi-user plans, you will be able to see all of their timelines and contribute to them, and they will automatically be able to see and contribute to all of your timelines. So if you're in a team where you kind of trust everybody and want them to be able to see all of your timelines and vice versa, the multi-user plans are perfect for you.
Okay, come back to this user permission. David is also asking this permission thing, which means if there is a 5 user, all the 5 users will see everything of every member.
Correct. Yes. If you're on one of the multi-user plans, every person on the team will be able to see and contribute to each other's timelines. If you don't want that, then the collaboration feature is a better fit. And that way you will have more granular control over what timelines people can contribute to.
Okay. Then the user can create and also modify the timeline, or the collaborator also can do the same thing?
Collaborators will be able to see and contribute to the timelines you invited them to. They will also be able to create timelines of their own, but that's completely separate. You won't be able to see their timelines unless they invite you as a collaborator on their timelines.
Okay, so before we leave this question, I have a request, because I think a lot of our business owner or members, they are actually small agency, what they call owners. Mm-hmm. They have teams, maybe team of 5 or 6 or 10, and they don't want everybody to see every timeline, of the owner, which means like a super user. Can it be done or what?
Something that I want to add is I want to combine the collaboration and the users feature into a more granular permissions, so that, to your point and to the person who asked the question's point, you will be able to say, I want these specific people to be able to see these timelines. I want them to be able to edit these timelines. But again, that's on the roadmap. Right now, you're limited to that collaboration feature and the multi-user feature. For 99% of customers, that has worked well for them. But again, I do think it would be more elegant to combine them and have more granular permissions to address the use cases that you mentioned.
Yeah. I mean, the reason I ask is because, let's say for my team, I have maybe 5 employees. So I have prepared some timeline, actually confidential. I do not want them to see. So that's come into play. So you know the use case, right? Okay, yeah. That's good. Okay, Ruhani is a dark mode guy, so he always asks this question.
There, as you might have seen, there is a dark theme that you can apply to the timeline, but there's no way to switch the entire interface into dark mode. I hear you. It would be a nice to have. It's other things that have taken priority.
But because the timelines, roadmaps are actually multi-color, if you put dark mode, then I'm not sure whether it will stand out. It become dark,
Yeah. I imagine some users won't mind the dark background with the timeline on it, but I think it does look quite clean with the light background with the timeline over it.
Okay, then was asking for more languages, in the timeline front end.
Yeah. So I think you're asking about the UI and being able to like localize the entire UI, and yeah, there's no way to automatically do that right now. You might know about this, but Google has an excellent extension for Chrome that lets you automatically translate any page that you're on, and I've seen a lot of users using that, and they load Preceden and they have this configured to automatically translate everything into Spanish or whatever language they prefer. Ideally, long term though, yes, there would be an option in the interface, and you could click Spanish or German or Japanese, and all the interface would change. But there's no way to do that at the moment. You might have seen that for the timeline itself, there is options to change the language, and that will affect, for example, how the month names on the timeline itself. So that if you're sharing your timeline with Spanish speakers, they'll be able to see the timeline with dates in Spanish and not with dates in English. So for your audience, it won't be an issue, but for you as a user, yeah, if you're not fluent in English, maybe a tool like the Google Chrome Translate extension will be a good fit for you.
Okay, so there are a lot of what I call requests for that. I think maybe you should show us your roadmap. Can you share your screen and maybe explain a little bit about the roadmaps?
Yes, give me half a second. Share.
Okay.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Great. So this is a tool called Frill. This was also an AppSumo deal a while back, but it's what I use for users submitting ideas and also our public product roadmap. So a couple of the key ones I want to call out is adding CNAME support, and a lot of you will be familiar with this, but this would let you, for example, when you're sharing a link to your timeline, instead of it being on the preceden.com domain, you could have it on a subdomain of your own company's website. And this has been requested by a number of Sumo links so far, and it's actually something that I plan to work on shortly. And maybe even by the end of next week, I'd like to have this knocked out, because I do recognize that it's important and fits a lot of Sumo links' needs. We won't go through all of these, but I'll just highlight a few key ones on my mind. You can add images to events on your timeline, but you can't attach arbitrary files like PDFs, and that's something I'd like to allow eventually. Folders, I alluded to this briefly, just to better organize the events, better organize the timelines on your dashboard. Sublayers, so if you can imagine let's go back to that original timeline we were looking at. So this has 3 layers on it, but imagine if we could further divide this into sublayers. So within product, we could have like 3 more layers representing different aspects of product development. That's what sublayers refers to. Integrations, we talked about videos on the timeline, add a way to view multiple timelines in one. So for example, maybe you have 3 different timelines representing smaller projects, but you want a way to view all of those timelines together in one overall timeline to see the overall project status. That's what that's referring to. API, Gantt chart layout. Again, Gantt chart in this case would mean a setting to move all those event names all the way to the left of the timeline, and just have the bars and icons on the timeline itself, so that it looks like a more traditional Gantt chart. Yeah, recurring events, the ability to hide weekends completely from the timeline. You can shade weekends right now to make them stand out on the timeline, and you can also do things like you can do 10 days here, but you can also do 10 weekdays, and Preceden will automatically skip weekends when calculating the end date there. Curved connections between lines, and we saw these connections are all these straight lines, but I want to add support for like curved lines too, which I think would look kind of cool. Ability to archive timelines, vertical timelines, I said I'm not going to go through all these, so maybe I'll stop there. But hopefully that gives you a sense of some of the big things on our roadmap. The three that are very much on my mind right now, and I'd say the three things that are coming next are CNAME support, folders to organize dashboards, and version history. Version history means like if you have multiple people contributing to a timeline, having an easy way to see who made changes and what changes they made and when for any of these timelines.
Okay, so much for the roadmap. So guys, if you have any what they call suggestion also or requests for the roadmap, I mean feature requests, you can actually go to the roadmap to do your requests. So let's move to the next question. Dan was asking. Oh, hold on. The question got jump off.
I think I saw it. The question was, can you use the arrow keys, to move left and right through the timeline and presentation mode?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you can.
Okay, that's good. Okay, Justin is asking whether for dynamic, is there a way to export into document? I think yes, of course.
Yes, you can. If you have a document like a Word document and you want to embed your timeline in it, the best way is to just download it as an image, a PNG, and then you can add that to your document. As I mentioned too, if you have a website, Preceden also supports embedding your timelines as an iframe, and then of course it will always reflect the current state of the timeline. It won't be a fixed export at a point in time.
Mm-hmm. Okay, the CNAME part was answered, but I'm not sure about the MS project files into Preceden.
No, you can't import Microsoft project files into Preceden, but we do have the spreadsheet import feature. And if you export your Microsoft project file to a spreadsheet and then do a little light manipulation on the columns, you could import it into Preceden. And there's support docs outlining the exact format that Preceden expects.
This has been answered, right?
Vertical timelines, it's certainly on my mind as something to do. It's probably not something that's going to be done immediately, but yes, long term, I would like to add support for vertical timelines. And for anybody that might not be clear on what a vertical timeline means, you can imagine like a vertical bar, and then extending from the left and right of that vertical bar are the events. But no, at the moment, Preceden focuses on horizontal timelines.
Okay, Sujis was commenting, this is something that he's looking for. Going to buy it. Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah. So his question is, he's asking about themes. Yes. The themes are, for example, you could start with a completely blank white timeline, and you could use those appearance settings to completely customize it. You can customize the layout and the colors, but a lot of times people aren't going to want to sit there and click into the appearance settings and tinker with it all to figure out how to make the layout what they want and how to make the colors look good. And so those themes provide a starting point so that you can quickly just get your timeline into a certain color theme and a certain layout without tinkering with a bunch of settings.
Okay. Yeah, this question has been answered, but then maybe you can elaborate a bit. Why is it so difficult to connect, integrate with other project management tools? Is it proprietary coding or what?
Just work. So it just requires figuring out their API or maybe using Zapier if it's possible to use with that, and just working through the details of setting up the integration. So there's no impossible technical challenges to doing it. It's just a matter of priority. So
I see. Okay.
To answer this question.
If there is enough requests, I think you'll be considered, right?
Yeah. Over time, Preceden has evolved largely from feedback that I've gotten from past customers and feature requests. So many of the things that I showed you today came directly from customers. So I very much am open to feedback and feature requests. And of course, we can't get to everything immediately, but the more that people request something, the more it is a signal for me and my team that this is something that we should work on. So yeah, the more people upvote those items on the roadmap or mention it in channels like this or in support requests, the more it gets on our mind and the more it rises on our to-do list.
Okay, Rohani, you hear that? I think a lot of people are actually using Nifty, So I myself have Nifty. So yeah, guys, if you want it to be on top of the what I call improvement, go and vote it. Okay, Larry was asking how many teams are there to visualize timeline differently.
Yeah, there's three different themes. We've had more in the past, but looked at the data and looked at what exactly people are choosing, and we've elected to simplify it down to just three main themes. Again, from the appearance settings, you can adjust any of those starting themes to get to something that suits you more. But those three are the main layouts that Preceden provides and the main ones that people are interested in. Why is Preceden not using Preceden as a roadmap? So the nice thing about Frill, the tool that I was sharing, is that it lets people upvote items and easily contribute their own items to the roadmap. So it's a great tool that's focused on soliciting ideas from your audience and letting them upvote on it. I of course could have a timeline in Preceden, but there's not fixed dates on these things like that Frill roadmap we're looking at, like CNAME feature, and that is something I want to do shortly. But some of these other ones, they don't have fixed dates. I don't know for sure that it's going to happen in August, for example. So it's not well suited to a Preceden timeline where you need to put dates in, even approximate dates. It's a little more fluid. But cool question.
Yeah, I think a few person asked this question as well. So let me move on to the next question. Okay, Pamela Lee was asking, can we embed video? I think he's trying to say.
Yeah. At the moment, yes, you can upload images and they'll display on your timeline, but not videos. You can link to videos, but the videos are not going to show up on your timeline. That's on the roadmap also. It shouldn't be too hard to implement, so it's something that'll likely get done in the near term.
Which means if we can embed it, means the video will stay in your server.
Kind of depends what we're talking about. The easy solution is just you drop a URL to like a YouTube video or a Vimeo video, and it just automatically displays it on the timeline. The other option is, yes, you could actually upload your own video from your hard drive. For the V1, we'll probably just be supporting URLs and having them display on the timeline, because I think that's going to work for the vast majority of people.
Okay, David is asking API and webhooks, So I mean, this is a common question for LTD community.
Yeah. Yep. No API at the moment. That's on the roadmap also, but yeah, at the moment there's no way to automatically pull data in from other tools. But I hear you all. Thank you for the questions about it.
And one of the best, not to say the best, most popular integration webhook or API kind of thing will be through Pabbly Connect, So, Pabbly Connect.
I'm actually not familiar with it. Is it similar to Zapier?
So similar to Zapier. So because Pabbly Connect is a very popular, hugely popular within the LTD community. Okay.
I'll make
I type it here. I type it in the guest chat there. Okay, let's move to the next question.
Is there an option to leave comments, or can we mark up a part of the timeline and comment on it? You can add notes. Like if you invite somebody to be a collaborator in your timeline, they can add notes to any event, and that might work well depending on your use case. But there's no built-in like comment feature. Most of the people using Preceden are already going to use Slack or other project management tools that are well suited for that back and forth discussion. So it hasn't been a huge issue, but that could be something that we add down the road, native commenting features. Great question.
Okay. Can we change the week starts,
Yeah, you can change it. It defaults to Monday, but you can also change it to Sunday. And if you have a use case that's neither one of those, let me know. It wouldn't be too hard to support that. And I'd also be interested to hear the use case there.
Oh, this is something irrelevant, but then just answer it.
It might be. Honestly, I don't remember, but yeah, it might be.
Okay. I
Good
mean, okay, David, what do you mean by Alibaba? No, so I confused.
I think he's saying I got the clock from Alibaba.
Okay, maybe, yeah, okay, maybe. Oh, one more. What about your friend?
I was here when we bought the house. I couldn't tell you where that came from, and you guys all have a good attention to detail. And thank you for all the questions. Really, it really means the world to me.
Okay, now come back to the deal terms. Tier 1 and tier 2. So your tier 1 is only, let me check, only one user. Tier 2 is 5 users.
Can I screen share and I'll
Yeah, you can share your screen.
All right, one moment. Just getting the deal up. Sure. So this is the deal page. You're all welcome to check it out if you would like. Here's the 3 tiers. There's $59 one, $119 and $199. The way I would think about these is this tier 1 is great for individual use. So if you're just using Preceden by yourself and maybe you just need one collaborator, but you're not going to be really working with a lot of other people on timelines, then this tier 1 should be a good fit for you. It supports 5 timelines, which historically most people who are using it for personal use don't need more than 5 timelines. So this should be a pretty good fit for you. If you are more of a power user and you are going to be needing more timelines, or you're going to be working on a small team or need to be collaborating with more people, this tier 2 is a good fit. And if you really need a lot of timelines, or you're a larger team, like you're an agency, this tier 3 is going to be a good fit for you. It supports up to 15 users and unlimited collaborators, and all of these plans come with all the other features that we talked about today. So hopefully you can see the value in these. They really are quite generous plans relative to the normal plans that we offer on the site. And I hope that if you purchase it, you end up getting a lot of value from it long term, and I think you will.
Okay, thank you. So next question is, are you GDPR compliant, or striving for it? Because a lot of US apps are not GDPR compliant, and a lot of European customer or member always complain about that.
Yeah, it's not GDPR compliant. I've actually spoken with a lawyer about this and to understand what's required, and it's very much a gray area according to this lawyer about like what as a US based company that serves mostly US customers, what the requirements are. But maybe I'll just end by saying yes, it's not GDPR compliant, and if that is a requirement for you, then Preceden might not be a good fit for you.
Okay, maybe I want to get to the bottom of this question. So, are you going to make it GDPR compliant at the end of it?
I think if there winds up being a large customer base in Europe, if it makes up a non-trivial percentage of my customer base, then it is something that I would pursue more. Again, I went down this route with a lawyer, and his suggestion was wait to do the work, because as anybody knows who has gone down the GDPR route, it is quite involved, and there's a lot of mixed guidance on what the requirements were. And so his suggestion to me was just hold off for now, wait till it grows, and wait till it becomes more of a necessity. So it's not something I am striving for at the moment, but if it becomes more important because I have more customers in Europe, then it certainly is something that we would pursue.
Yeah, I think you give a frank answer, So I mean, it's okay, as long as it's actually you have the balance between your profit and also your your time, So if you go into GDPR now, full force, but then you have served a very small segment of your customer, then it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So I hope the user will understand this. Hopefully you got more customer, then you can actually go into it faster.
I will say too that I take security and data privacy very seriously. And while it might not be GDPR compliant, I do spend a lot of time thinking about just the data. For example, a lot of SaaS tools, you'll sign up and maybe use it, and they'll keep your data around forever and ever. So if the company launched 15 years ago and you signed up for it, in 2008, your data probably still lives in their system. And if they ever suffer a data breach, your data is going to be included in that data breach. With Preceden, our data policy is that, like, if you're not paying and you're not using it for a certain amount of time, then we're going to put you into a sequence where we ask you, like, do you want to still keep your data around in Preceden? Because if you no longer have a need for it, we don't want to keep your data around forever and just have your data living around in our database forevermore. So that is something that Preceden does, that most companies do, but I think it's the right thing to do, not to just keep users' data around forevermore.
Okay, thank you for the answer.
Mhm.
And Lau Flores was commenting that using iframe for the video. I mean, for your consideration.
Okay. Allow including an iframe because some video is hosted on different services. Yeah, it could be. When I dive into videos more, this certainly could be an option. And also shout out to Lou. I've seen you in various comments on Facebook. So thank you.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, we come back to this integration again because, I mean, the LTD community use a different kind of project management, but there will be no end actually. They have Jira, they have Smartsheet, they got Google Sheet, all kind of PM tools. So I find that somehow you have to get integration done through Zapier or whatever.
Yeah, I hear you guys, and again, thank you for pushing this. It definitely gets it more on my radar that I've gotten all these questions about it.
Okay, so this is there's a comment.
Yeah, I think the comment was about the week start. Yeah, you can set it to, it defaults to Monday. You can set it to Sunday, and if you have another use case, feel free to shoot our support box an email. We can get it added pretty easily.
Okay, this is a comment from Ruhani.
I'll push for more automatic integrations. Thank you.
Okay, let me see. We have any other question? No, we are about 1 hour already. Okay, let me see. Okay, this has not been mentioned before.
Yeah, the question is basically, are the timelines responsive? Will the timelines show up if you share it with a client on mobile or tablet? And the answer is yes. With the asterisk that on smaller screens like mobile, the web page will show an image and not the full interactive timeline visualization. And that's simply because you can imagine a small screen that's 3 inches wide. It's going to be very hard to have that full interactive visualization and have it look good. But it will display an image in its place, and of course, some people can zoom into that on their phones. But yeah, and it also will show that list of events below the image, which your audience can use to further dig into the content.
Okay, that's good. So this is the last question. Can you do a quick demo on Bug Editor?
I can, yes. All right. Great. You can see my screen?
Yes.
All right. So I'll click bulk editor here. It brings up this list of all the events in the timeline. So just as a simple example, if we wanted to change this June 9th to some other date, we could go here and say, like, all right, let's say it starts June 23rd, and let's give it an end date too. So instead of, let's say July 15th, sure, and leave all that the same. So let's see. Oh, I see. It's saying, no, there's a problem, and that's because I accidentally put 2023 here. And so this end date was before the start date, and Precedent's like, no. So now that we've set that, we can go back to the timeline, and we can see here it's automatically reflected that. So again, the if you need a lot of control and to use the less common features, editing events using this interface is a good fit. This lets you upload images and do the connected events. But if you're just maybe populating your timeline initially, or if you don't need those advanced features, this bulk editor is a good fit. You can just quickly add events to any layer. You can add layers here and manage it all through this interface. Great question.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. Actually, I find that this is a great feature. Okay, this is let me project it up. This is not a joke, but then just a simple question.
Did I fly a jet? No. Most people in the Air Force don't fly planes. I think it's like 2% of the service members in the U.S. Air Force fly. Everybody else supports those flyers in one way or the other. I was a communications officer, so I helped make sure that the networks and radio equipment and whatnot on the bases all worked in support of the flyers.
Okay, that's good.
Another question here is, where can we see the roadmap? You can go to roadmap.preceden.com, and there's also links to it from the site itself if you check out the tool.
Okay, guys, I think we have answered most of the question. Maybe we have missed out one or two, but if we really missed out, you wanted to answer now, just type it in again, the question. Okay.
Thank you all for the questions and the suggestions. Really makes my day.
Okay, if there is no, there is some question. Hold on. Oh, no more question. Okay, guys, it's time for giveaway, and I think many people are waiting for it. But before we do the giveaway, I would like to share this screen. This is the giveaway prize. Okay, the giveaway price is actually a better tier than the one in AppSumo. You are getting this business plan giveaway price. You got 5 users, but unlimited what they call timelines. You remember that in the tier 2 in AppSumo is only 5 users, but not unlimited timelines, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. So this is actually between tier 2 and tier 3.
Yeah, the only difference between this and the tier 3 is that the tier 3 would be for 15 users. This is for 5. If you win this giveaway and you actually need more than 5, ping me and I can make that happen. But yeah, a lot of these giveaways, they tend to give away like the cheap plan. But I want to do right by you all, and so this giveaway is actually for the business plan.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you know what you are going to get. So let's see. Let me hold on. They always jump away. Okay, so now it's time for this giveaway, and today the giveaway is by question and answer. So these are the simple rules. Whoever answer the question correctly by typing fast, you will get you become the winner. And I want to make a clarification about the name that appear in our backend. So in any circumstances, what we see at the backend of this wave video will be the deciding factor rather than in the Facebook, because sometimes Facebook transmit at different speed to different server in a different country. So sometimes you see that you are the first one, but actually you might be the second or the third one. So don't get angry if you don't choose you, even though you think that you are the first one to get it right. Okay, because this happened in one of the past webinar, and there are some argument, but then we have to have some rules. So this is one of the rules. Okay, guys, get ready. Matt will shoot 5 questions one by one, and whoever answer correctly first will win the prize.
All right.
Okay.
I was brainstorming some of these questions, and I got a few written down. So if towards the end I need a second to bear with me to think of some. Try not to make them too hard here. All right. So get your fingers ready. How many different themes are there?
Oh, that's simple. Nobody answer. We just talk about it.
Hey, there we go.
Oh, all wrong.
I see some threes in there. On my end, I see Vivian as the first.
No. Oh, I see somebody, but no names.
I'm seeing names.
You're looking at Facebook or you're looking at the
I'm looking at the live chat on
live chat.
Yeah.
No, I know one of them said two, but there's no name.
There are three, so whoever got the first three would be the winner there.
So what is the correct answer?
Three.
So okay, let me check. Vivian Low.
Yeah, that's who I see as well.
Okay, congratulations, Vivian Low. So you are the first winner. Okay, let's do the second question.
All right, what state am I from?
This is difficult.
See if anybody remembers.
Okay, maybe you repeat this question.
Yeah, what state in the U.S. am I from? And if you don't remember, you could also take 2 seconds and Google my name and probably find the answer.
Google your LinkedIn.
Carolina, there are two of them. I think maybe that should count.
Okay, we have an answer now. Blue Forest.
So it is a little debatable. Lou said North Carolina. Cleveland said Carolina. And then I gave that hint. So do we want to give it to Cleveland or Lou?
No, because Justin was also saying, Justin said California. It's up to you,
Yeah. Let's I think we got to give it to Justin. Sorry, Lou. Just because, or excuse me, Cleveland. Just because after he mentioned Carolina, I did say which one, and that was easy to guess from there.
Okay, so the second prize go to Cleveland Chu. Congratulations, Cleveland Chu. Even though the exact answer is actually North Carolina.
Yep.
Okay, so don't get angry, Flores.
All right.
Okay, let's move to the third question.
Third question. What year was Preceden founded?
Oh, this is difficult. What year?
Lou's laughing. So if anybody remembers how long it's been running, this shouldn't be too hard to figure out.
Yeah. I think many. I see some correct answer.
So I see Cleveland again. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. Got it. So how about we do this? Cleveland.
Which one?
I see Cleveland. 2010 was the correct answer.
No, the first one is also Cleveland.
Yeah. So how about we give this one to Cleveland, and then we'll give the other one to Lou. So that way, both Lou and Cleveland get it.
Okay. Yeah, I know what you mean. That means Lou Flores will get the prize as well, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think we got Lou, Cleveland, and Vivian.
Okay, that will be very fair. So these are three prizes. Gone to Vivian Lau, Cleveland Chu, and Lou Flores.
All right. How many users does the Tier 3 plan support?
This is super easy. Oh my God, nobody knows an answer.
I love somebody.
You have one answer already.
Yeah, there we go. So this is, some of you are answering 5. That's for this, for the giveaway. The tier 3 on AppSumo though is for 15. So I think
BL Samota.
yeah, BL Samota. That's right.
Let me check back. Is it yeah, he's on top, on the, yeah, the correct answer is BL's 15 user for AppSumo tier 3. But for your giveaway, it's actually 5 user.
Yeah. Again,
so BL Samota.
Yep. If you get this giveaway and you need more than 5, let me know. I'm not going to be too stingy about it.
Okay, BL Samota, congratulations. And we have the last prize, and make it more difficult or more easier.
What percentage of the current reviews on the AppSumo deal are 5 stars?
Whoa. What percentage of the AppSumo deal are 5 stars? I don't know. To be frank,
five tacos, I suppose I should say.
I think it should be a lot.
Yeah, we got some hundreds in there. There we go.
Oh,
who
no.
answered 2%? Come on.
2% is too low.
So I'm seeing Pravash.
From where?
Remember, some of these people are getting these answers here. So there are 7 reviews, yes, but the percentage is 100. So my ask for you all, if you enjoyed this demo and you like the product, is if you do purchase the AppSumo lifetime deal, I would very much appreciate a review. As many of you will know, AppSumo heavily prioritizes promoting deals that get reviews. So reviews are really important for not only this lifetime deal, but for others that you might participate in. So if if you like the product, you like this demo, and you wind up buying it, please leave a review. It would be very much appreciated.
Okay, so what is it's 100% and also 7. So which one should be the right one?
I asked percentage, so 100 would be the correct answer.
So 100 will be Pravash, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Pravash Chandra. Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's 7 review, all are 5 tacos and 100%. So Pravash, congratulations. You are a frequent winner, no? Because we have frequent traveler, now we have frequent winner of a LTD giveaway. Congratulations, Pravash. You are the last winner for these 5 prizes. So guys, that's our LTD giveaway, and we hope that everybody is enjoying this presentation by Matt. And I actually learned a few things from him, as an engineer, because I used to do a lot of project management tools as well in my former job. So if I've known that this a long time ago, that would be very helpful, but now no longer that helpful to me because I use less now. Okay, guys, thank you for your participation in this giveaway as well as your question. And I believe Matt actually have got a lot of feedback, from you guys, and definitely he will actually work hard to improve on the product itself and try to prioritize it. So if you have any urgent request or whatever, please upvote so that you can actually pay attention to it. So with this, I would like to say thank you again to the audience. And most important thing is to thank this Matt. And hopefully that you have a good run in this AppSumo, and you are in select, so AppSumo will help you. Okay. So before we go, Matt, do you have anything to tell the audience?
No, I just want to thank you all for coming, and really excellent questions, and thank you for all the participation in the chat. And thanks for being here.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I would announce the winner tomorrow with the way, with the method of how to redeem those codes. I'm actually quite busy in the sense that, we have, for the last 2 weeks, there are actually 3 webinars in a week, for a few weeks already. So a lot of work to be done. So I'm a bit slow in responding to announcing the winner and also giving away the codes, So my apologies. Okay, that's all. Thank you. Bye-bye. And see you again, Matt, in some other places.
Yeah, thanks for doing this.